Hello, everyone. Today's topic is It's Kind People That You've Got to Watch Out For, a Buddhist perspective. Usually, when we think of scary people, we think of short-tempered people who blow up easily, or cold-hearted, violent people, or people who are good at deceiving others without getting caught. People who act with kindness, warmth, and sincerity wouldn't usually come into it. But under the right circumstances, kindness can actually end up warping into something quite sinister. That is the topic of today's video. Let us explore what it is about human nature that can have this curious and frightening effect on kindness, and reflect on how we can avoid letting this terrifying transformation take place, both within others and within ourselves when we try to do good. Today we will cover 1. When kindness is repaid with betrayal. 2. Getting walked over. 3. So is it better to just not do good? Have you seen a Japanese hanya mask before? It's used in traditional No theater and represents a woman driven to madness by anger and hatred. Of course, no woman is simply born with a scary face like this. In fact, the character would have once looked kind and sweet. Something, however, caused her to snap, and that was being mistreated or betrayed by the man she loved. Perhaps this woman had once been doing all she could to make life comfortable for her beloved, working hard to keep the house clean, lovingly preparing him delicious meals, and providing him a shoulder to cry on, and even money in a crisis. Despite all her efforts, though, the man began cheating on her with another woman and lost interest in her. When the spurned woman storms over to his lover's place to confront her, her once sweet face is contorted into that of a raging demon. A hanya mask is crafted to depict not only the intense and frightening anger that comes from feeling betrayed, but also the sorrow and torment of heartbreak. From some angles, the face looks as if it is crying. It captures the complexity of this woman's emotions. Because this woman loved the man so much, she showered her kindness upon him, that kindness gave way to vicious anger when she found out he had betrayed her. Of course, had she never lifted a finger for him in the first place, or if she'd even taken her own additional lover on the side, she probably wouldn't have cared nearly as much when she discovered he'd been seeing someone else. Her ghastly transformation from gentle angel to furious demon happened because of her feeling that all she had done for him had been thrown back in her face. You see, when we do acts of kindness for others, it is with the expectation that they will at least show us some appreciation for it. When we're not repaid in the way we want, we feel angry and hurt, sometimes extremely so. Since our acts of goodness have this expectation attached to them, Buddhism calls them poisoned good. Just as poison injures and kills, our expectation of gratitude from the object of our kindness turns our goodwill into rage and misery. Try as we might to forget that I did what and for whom, these things stick in our memory, and so that expectation remains inside of us. Therefore, even though acts of kindness are definitely good deeds that benefit both the receiver and the giver, the poison works to warp the happiness we reap from our good deeds into pain when we don't get the thanks we thought we'd get. The strength of the poison, though, depends on how severe we perceive the offense to be. Let's say two friends go to a pub and have drinks together. Friend 8 says, "It's on me today." Friend B thanks him and says he'll buy him drinks next time. When the next time comes around, though, Friend B seems to have forgotten his promise. The two split the bill, but Friend 8 feels a bit irked that Friend B didn't pay for the drinks like he said he would. Still, it's not that much money and it's not that big a deal, so Friend A ultimately shrugs it off. But then sometime after that, Friend B goes to Friend A and begs him for a $10,000 loan, saying his business is going through a crisis and he is in dire need of the money. That's no small amount of money to say the least, but since the two are good friends, Friend A agrees to give him that much, even offering to let it be a gift rather than a loan. Friend B thanks him profusely, but promises he will definitely pay him back. Afterwards, Friend A reflects that he can hardly believe he gave Friend B that much money, but that at least he was grateful. However, the seed of expectation has been sown, and proportionate to the huge loan that Friend A now believes is due to come back to him, the poison that's ready to take effect is potent indeed. Time goes by, and Friend B's business gets back on track, but no sign of that money. Friend B even meets up with Friend A a few times, but still no sign of that money. Friend A begins silently, resentfully wondering if Friend B thought he just had $10,000 lying around somewhere, like it was no big deal, and even considers breaking off the friendship over this. However, he chooses to outwardly keep his cool and remain patient for now. That is, until he finds out from other friends who'd lent him money that they had already been repaid. Now, Friend 8 is starting to seethe. Why only me? He wonders, fury boiling up inside. He's taking me for a ride. All this, in spite of the fact that Friend 8 had originally offered the money as a gift out of kindness. The other friends likely insisted Friend B repay them as soon as possible and set a deadline, which would be why they got repaid. But since Friend 8 seems so willing to do this simply as a favor, Friend B now seems to think it's quite all right to take his sweet time getting that money together for him. Meanwhile, Friend 8 is feeling betrayed, as it was precisely because he thought of Friend B as a good friend that he didn't demand repayment, but that leniency is now being used against him. This is just one example of how great kindness directed towards someone can become corrupted into proportionately intense anger and resentment due to that poison mixed in with it. Still, Friend B's attitude is something we need to be careful of within ourselves. It's easy to brush the kindest people aside and forget about them, letting fear push us to prioritize appeasing less kind people instead so that we can avoid their wrath. If we're lucky enough to have people in our lives who do such great acts of kindness for us, though, we should cherish them and take special care to repay them. It's not good to think so lightly of them. And you never know, pushing them too far might lead to you being the target of a fierce, vengeful grudge. Kind people don't get angry easily, or so we like to think. In fact, just because they're good at staying all smiles on the outside, it doesn't mean they don't still get angry when they are humiliated, ridiculed, or unexpectedly forced to part with hard-earned money. In all people, anger arises when they are prevented from getting what they want, and in many cases, kind people are simply holding back that rage out of consideration for others. This might seem virtuous, but if it keeps happening, the effect can be much like keeping a lid on a volcano. With no way to escape, all that pressure just builds up over time. A person who shouts and vents their anger in the moment might find some relief from doing so, but for the highly restrained, kind person, the anger that gets pushed down just builds up inside as resentment. He said this to me. She did that to me. They made a fool of me. Insult upon injury upon affront upon offense piles up and up and up until kaboom, they erupt in a fearsome fit of fury. For another analogy, think of a pressure cooker. These make use of heavy, tightly shut lids to cook ingredients under pressure, but they are equipped with pressure regulators that let out the necessary amount of steam to ensure the pressure is neither too high nor too low. If the regulator fails, the excess pressure can cause the iron lid to suddenly be blown off, possibly even hard enough to become embedded in the ceiling. In much the same way, if a person never vents their anger in some way and always holds it in, they will inevitably reach a breaking point. So don't assume that nice person you know who never seems to get angry will be fine if you keep taking advantage of their kindness or outright betraying them. They might just be keeping all their real feelings inside, and being mistreated one too many times might well cause them to blow their lid. So, if being nice enough to restrain your anger in this way can be so damaging, and if, as we learned not long ago, our good deeds are poisoned good anyway, then should we just not bother being kind to others? Won't that help us avoid getting angry and resentful towards others? Well, that's not the right way of looking at things. You see, doing acts of kindness for others is a good thing that brings happiness not only to the other person, but to you as well. If, on the other hand, you treat people cold-heartedly or unrestrainedly unleash your anger upon them, these are negative deeds that will naturally bring bad consequences. The good deeds are not what is wrong here. Rather, it is the mindset with which we do them. The problem is that we hold on to the memory of I did what and for whom. This is what poisons our good deeds. Buddhism teaches that we should try to forget I did what and for whom. In other words, we should try to let go of the expectations we attach to our good deeds. Without the expectation that the person for whom we did an act of kindness should repay us with gratitude or otherwise, we won't become angry or resentful if they do not do so. Therefore, Buddhism says, try to forget I did, what, and for whom. This is a way to keep that poison away from our good deeds as much as possible. While trying to forget these three things when we do acts of kindness for others, it's also very important that we make sure to remember to repay those who do kind things for us. Keep in mind what a nice thing they have done and hold on to that gratitude. Never take others' kindness for granted. Always be sure to show the other person consideration and let them know just how thankful you are for all they've done. When people start feeling underappreciated, relationships can quickly deteriorate, resulting in a loss for the both of you, but that doesn't have to happen. Be kind and appreciate other people's kindness. That's a great way to make life happier, both for others and for yourself. So let's take special care of the kind people we're lucky enough to have in our lives, while also being mindful to avoid the trap of expectations as we strive to be kind to others too. Plant these good seeds, and good fruits are sure to come to you. Thank you for watching.